Whenever you're on a plane, looking out that tiny window, have you ever just stopped and thought, how does this all work? I mean, really, you've got these massive metal tubes flying through the sky with hundreds of other planes, and somehow they all land exactly where they're supposed to. It seems like magic, right? Well, it's not. It's actually a system, an incredible, invisible set of rules we're going to pull back the curtain on today. So yeah, how do they do it? Think about it. Thousands of flights, all day, every day, all over the world. There are no stop signs up there, no lane markings at 35,000 feet. So how is this incredibly complex, high-speed ballet kept from turning into total chaos? The answer, and the whole idea behind this explainer, is something we're calling the unseen script. Before any commercial flight even pushes back from the gate, it's already following a pre-written script. It's a detailed plan that maps out its every move, combined with a universal rulebook that every single person in the system, from the pilot to the controller, knows inside and out. So let's get into it. Okay, so this whole story, this entire script, it actually begins long before the engines even roar to life. The first and maybe most important part of this whole thing is written right on the ground. And that first page is called the flight plan. I want you to think of it like the plot summary for the whole journey. It's this formal document that gets sent to air traffic control, and it basically says, hey, here's who we are, here's where we're going, and this is the exact route we're going to take to get there. It's the absolute foundation for safety and coordination. So what's actually in this thing? Well, you can break it down into three main parts. First up, the who and what. That's the plane's unique call sign, its model, and really importantly, the number of souls on board. Second, you've got the where and when. This lays out the departure and arrival airports, the precise route, the planned altitude, and cruising speed. And finally, you have the contingencies. This is the what-if section. What are the backup airports? How long will the fuel last? What emergency gear is on the plane? And listen, this isn't just a suggestion. Filing a flight plan is required by law in a lot of cases. Any flight that's getting service from air traffic control, yep, needs one. Any flight navigating by instruments alone, say flying through thick clouds where you can't see a thing, that's called IFR, and you absolutely have to file one. It's also vital for search and rescue operations, and it's a non-negotiable for any plane crossing an international border. All right, the script is written, now it's time for the show to begin. But even before the plane takes off, there's a whole nother set of rules just for how these giants move around on the ground. What I love about this is how simple and logical these ground rules are. It's basically the rules of the road, but for airplanes. If two planes are coming at each other head-on, they both either stop or turn to the right. If their paths are about to cross, the plane that has the other one on its right-hand side has to give way. And if you're passing another plane, it's on you to stay way clear. It's simple, it's effective, and it prevents a whole lot of chaos on the tarmac. So how do they see each other, especially at a busy airport at night? Well, besides just looking out the cockpit window, it all comes down to lights. Those big, bright, flashing red lights, those are the anti-collision beacons. They get turned on the second the crew is on board to send a clear message. Hey, we're here, and these engines could fire up any second. Then you have the navigation lights, a red one on the left wingtip, a green one on the right, and a white one on the tail. It's a system borrowed from ships, and it instantly tells other pilots which way a plane is pointed. Okay, wheels up. We're in the air. Now, sticking to that script becomes even more critical when you're cruising at over 500 miles an hour. So how is that perfect invisible choreography maintained up in the sky? Up here, it is all about precision. Just look at this number. One of the fundamental rules of flying is this. If your actual speed through the air changes by more than 5% from what you put in your flight plan, you have to tell air traffic control right away. It's all about making sure the picture the controller has on their screen is a perfect match for what's actually happening in the sky. And it's not just about speed. Pilots absolutely must report if they deviate from their assigned route at all. They also have to give a heads up if their estimated time of arrival over a specific waypoint changes by more than just 3 minutes. And of course, if they hit bad weather that makes it impossible to follow the plan, they've got to get on the radio and work with ATC to basically rewrite the script on the fly. But what happens when something really unexpected goes wrong? What happens when you have to throw the script completely out the window? Well, you guessed it, there's a playbook for that too. Okay, so this is really important. There are 2 calls you never want to hear. The first, repeated 3 times, is Mayday. That is the universal signal for distress. It means there is grave and imminent danger. Think
engine failure, and it requires immediate help. The other is pan-pan, also said 3 times. This signals urgency. It's serious, but it's not an immediate threat to life. Think of a medical situation on board that means the plane needs to land, but it's not about to fall out of the sky.
You know, one of the scariest scenarios for a pilot has to be losing communications. If you can't talk to the ground, how do you follow the script? How does anyone know where you are or what you're doing? Well, the procedures for this are incredibly specific. So if the weather is clear, if a pilot can see where they're going, the procedure's actually pretty straightforward. First, you just keep flying visually. Second, you find the nearest suitable airport and you land. And third, as soon as you're on the ground, you use whatever means you can, a phone, anything, to call ATC and let them know you're down safely. But pilots can also talk without ever saying a word. They use a device called a transponder, which sends out a 4-digit code that controllers see on their radar. We call it a squawk code. And there are 3 you never want to see. 7700 means a general emergency. 7600 is the silent way of saying, I've lost my radio. And 7500 is the most serious of all. It signals a hijacking. So let's imagine that pilot with the lost radio is now approaching an airport. How on earth did they get permission to land? This is where the script goes back in time, to a silent, visual language that's been around since the earliest days of flying. The air traffic controllers can grab a high-powered light gun and shoot beams of colored light right at the aircraft. Every color and every pattern means something very specific. So, a steady green light when you're in the air means you're cleared to land. But that same green light when you're on the ground means you're cleared for takeoff. A flashing red light is a serious warning. Airport is unsafe, do not land. It's an absolutely brilliant, simple backup plan. So how does the controller know the pilot actually got the message? Well, the pilot talks back without making a sound. In the air, during the day, they'll acknowledge the light signal by rocking their wings from side to side. If they're on the ground, they'll wiggle the rudder back and forth. It's this simple, elegant way of saying, message received. Finally, the plane is on the ground, everyone's safe, but the script isn't over just yet. There is one last crucial step, closing the flight plan. If a pilot forgets to do this, the system thinks they're still up there, lost somewhere. And that can trigger a massive, expensive search and rescue mission for a plane that's just sitting at the gate. Closing the plan confirms you're safe, it saves a ton of money, and it keeps those emergency services free for real emergencies. And speaking of silent languages, sometimes the simplest tools are the most brilliant. Just take the humble windsock. It's about as low-tech as you can get, but it's a vital part of the airport's silent language. It instantly shows any pilot which way the wind is blowing and, depending on how full it is, it gives them a pretty good idea of how strong it is. Absolutely critical info for a safe takeoff or landing. So, from that super detailed flight plan written hours before takeoff to the silent language of light guns and special codes, every single flight is guided by this unseen script. It's a script filled with rules, procedures, and backup plans that lets thousands of us share the skies safely every single day. So the next time you're flying and you look out that window, maybe you'll be able to see that invisible script